and the EU remains one of the wedded ones. But what is it that we need in India? We have taken on the kind of commitments on climate change without which, in fact, the Paris Accord may not perhaps have been possible. But having said this, what is it that we need? We've done very well in the area of renewables. In
Right.
solar energy, we've become world leaders, but we need a lot of technology in the area of heavy industry and in the area of heavy transport. I'll leave just one little thought with you.
Sure.
Perhaps a partnership in the area of hydrogen based technology. It's a small pet which I personally would like to try and pursue.
Hmm.
But I believe these are the kind of things. Look, let me also make one other point here. EU is the world's second largest economy, and
Hmm.
this is after we exclude Great Britain from it. As we are growing up the global ladder on GDP and on our capacities and so on,
Hmm.
we have to leverage the fact that we are two democracies, two open societies, and
Right.
two societies that have a very old relationship. You mentioned 1961. Let me tell you, our first contacts with the European coal and steel community was in 1957. So
57.
we were right there at
Hmm.
the very beginning. And it has something to do with our history, but it also has a lot to do with our comfort level. If you go into the
Sure.
market here in India, what is it that you see? If you look at products which have come from outside or brand names which are from outside, you will see things you to identify as Indian, made by companies in India, but which are quintessentially European brand. That's the nature of the game. And if we leverage this,
Right.
we benefit. I'll make one last point to
Sure.
you. Uh, Prime Minister, when he spoke in terms of the big package for COVID,
Hmm.
mentioned Atam Nirbhar Bharat. There was a lot of feeling among people that were we turning protectionist. But in the last few days,
Hmm.
as he has clarified that no, we are open to the world as we built an Atam Nirbhar and self-reliant Bharat. And it was repeated today in the dialogue with the EU leaders. Let me tell you, this would be music for the ears of the European companies and industry who really know India well and can be our best source of innovation, investment in taking things forward to the greater good of both Europe and India and indeed humankind.
Fair point. You made a rather elaborate intervention there, Ambassador Puri. If I can come to you now, Ambassador Kumar. Now, this summit took place in the backdrop of two events or developments. One, the COVID-19 pandemic. The second was the misadventures by one country in our neighborhood in the wider Indo-Pacific region, and both had to do with China. Now, China was the elephant in the room, so to speak. What did you make of the emphasis by both sides on these two developments, especially the Indo-Pacific, and how both sides discussed especially the standoff in Ladakh between the Indian and Chinese forces?
On the issue of pandemic, the
Sure.
COVID, I think this is an opportunity, frankly, for both EU and India to work together. For example, France, where I was ambassador before,
Hmm.
France depends on masks on China for almost 90%. So suddenly France realized that they don't have enough masks. So what France and other European countries would be looking at would be some kind of reshoring of supply chains. And India has got this predictable and justifiably good reputation that you can be the pharmacy of the world.
Hmm.
We did send paracetamol and hydrochlorine tablets to Europe, and India could be conceivably the biggest pharmacy for the world. We already export two-thirds of the vaccines to the world. So I see some opportunities in the area of public health where I can see India becoming the net provider for public health security, if you like. And there is an opportunity here for Europe and India to work together. I pick on Ambassador Manjeev Singh Puri's point. European Union is big on tech and research. There is excellent research going on there.
Hmm.
And if the two countries can collaborate even in the field of vaccine and other areas, there
Right.
can be extremely fruitful cooperation.
Hmm.
On the other issue you raised, China, I think what you are hearing in public is likely to be very different from what was exchanged in private. In
Okay.
public, the European Union has said that we welcome the talks between India and China and we hope they will peacefully resolve the issue. You don't expect the EU, if you're a long-standing diplomat like me and Manjeev Singh Puri, you don't expect them to say anything else.
Okay.
What the real summit discussion would have been is a thorough briefing from the Indian side about our interpretation of what happened at the border, at what the real situation now is. And obviously, it is for the EU to decide where China is heading post COVID. Post COVID, India is not the only theater. There is a South China Sea theater, there is a Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines theater, there is also a European theater. China, after all, has been labeled as a systemic rival by the EU. So I see there a number of frank discussions between the two sides, which will enable a better understanding of Chinese actions recently and a joint strategy to reduce dependence on China, whether it is trade, investment, or technology. Look at the 5G issue and what the UK has done, what European Union has done. So I think these are the kind of discussions that would have gone on behind closed doors, but you're not likely to see them in public. So I would say that this kind of a summit is an excellent opportunity to do some frank speak between the two sides, and India will have a good idea about how EU also sees China,
Right.
so that we can make our respective assessments about China.
Absolutely. Ambassador Puri, I want to go back to that relevant portion from the joint statement which deals with the bilateral FTA. If I can quote that portion again, it says they have agreed to establish a regular high-level dialogue at the ministerial level to provide guidance to the bilateral trade and investment relations and to address multilateral issues of mutual interest. The high-level dialogue will aim at fostering progress on the trade and investment agreements, addressing trade irritants, and improving conditions for traders and investors on both sides, as well as discuss supply chain linkages, unquote. Help our viewers understand the sticking points as to why the talks broke down in 2013.
India and the European Union are the largest trading partners. India is European Union is India's largest trading partner.
True.
We are among the top 10 trading partners of the European Union. Everybody thought there's a natural convergence, and there's no doubt about that. But let us try to understand.
Sure.
When you actually get down to an agreement which looks at nitty-gritties and, let me say, removing all kinds of barriers of protection, of things which are such as tariffs, etc., then you really get down to bread and butter issues of every dollar and cent, or should I say euro and cents thereafter. The European Union has a formidable bureaucracy. They also have a very formidable lobbying center in their own thing. And certainly they would like to push and see that many things get open. Now, one of the small sticking points which I'll mention, which the viewers would relate to, is about auto components. We are rightly proud that even though we've had a lot of investment from European companies as also Japanese and Korean companies, we've done remarkably well in terms of becoming even original equipment manufacturers for parts of these automobiles, and are even exporting these to the mother plants wherever else they may be in the world. Now, the European Union would really like to have a breakthrough so that the bigger companies which are doing things which get into it, this has obviously been a sticking point. Look, I'll make a small point to you.
Sure.
The European Union, on its part, also needs to understand that when you have access to the Indian market, you must be willing to recognize that a large country with the kind of development needs that India is, and with its employment requirements, a certain amount of protectionism is a must for us at the stage at which we are. This doesn't mean that we are a protectionist economy completely sealed, not at all. As the Prime Minister has said, we welcome FDI, we welcome people coming. But there has to be this particular understanding. On the reverse side, again, let me make to you a point which, again, viewers would easily understand.
Sure.
We are a country which is justifiably proud of what we've done in the digital area. We would like to have the Europeans give us access and a belief that our companies will be able to handle their data in a secure manner.
Right.
Now, they've had a number of tips with the Americans on this. This includes issues such as privacy, on which the Europeans are extremely strong. This includes issues of data access and what gets done with the data.
Right.
But they, again, need to see that we are, in a sense, that country which has worked with data with all its confidence, adding value to it and bringing good value to European companies. If today we have a 30 billion euro trade in services, it is as a result of this. So the European Union needs to take a more holistic and a more understanding view of where we are. We, on our part, I'm sure, would also take a more realistic view on letting Europeans come in. The general talk is usually of wines and spirits, some kinds of cheeses, etc. Look, these will get resolved one way or the other. As long as the big things
Right.
which I mentioned to you, which really add up in large numbers and which don't impact job creation.
All right.
Job creation for a country like India is particularly important. So these are the areas
Right.
I think ministerial guidance is important,
Sure.
because at the end of the day, these are issues which go beyond the pay grade of civil servants, no matter how talented and how good they are, because political calls have to be taken. And as Ambassador Mohan Kumar mentioned, it may even require that at one or two extremely sticking points, matters go really to the head of governments and the presidency of the European Union to take a call on the matter, because they
Right.
are issues which are of importance and
Absolutely.
particularly important in democracies and free societies.
Gentlemen, I'm completely running out of time, so I'll have to stop here. Thank you so much, Ambassador Puri and Ambassador Kumar, for joining us on Newsnight. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Right, moving on. 15th July marks the 5th anniversary of Skill India mission. On the occasion, Prime Minister Modi said the mantra for staying relevant in a post-COVID world is skill, reskill and upskill. Here's a report.
कई लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि आज के दौर में बिजनेस और बाजार इतनी तेजी से बदलते हैं कि समझ ही नहीं आता रिलेवेंट कैसे रहा जाए। कोरोना के इस समय में तो ये सवाल और भी अहम हो गया है। साथियों, मैं इसका एक ही जवाब देता हूं। रिलेवेंट रहने का मंत्र है स्किल, रीस्किल और अपस्किल।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi's message to the youngsters: skill, reskill and upskill to remain relevant in the rapidly changing business environment and market conditions. Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed the Digital Skills Conclave on Wednesday on the occasion of the World Youth Skills Day and the 5th anniversary of Skill India mission. The PM stated that the world belongs to them due to their ability to acquire new skills all the time.
तेजी से बदलती हुई आज की दुनिया में अनेक सेक्टरों में लाखों स्किल्ड लोगों की जरूरत है। विशेषकर स्वास्थ्य सेवाओं में तो बहुत बड़ी संभावनाएं बन रही है। यही समझते हुए अब कौशल विकास मंत्रालय ने दुनिया भर में बन रहे इन अवसरों की मैपिंग शुरू की है। कोशिश यही है कि भारत के युवा को अन्य देशों की जरूरतों के बारे में उसके संबंध में भी सही और सटीक जानकारी मिल सके। किस देश में हेल्थ सर्विस में नए द्वार खुल रहे हैं, किस देश में कौन से सर्विस सेक्टर में क्या डिमांड बन रही है, इसमें जुड़ी जानकारी अब तेजी से भारत के युवाओं को मिल सकेगी।
The Prime Minister also brought out the distinction between knowledge and skills in his address. He further highlighted the potential of the country to capitalize on the skilling opportunities available in the country.
आज भारत में नॉलेज और स्किल दोनों में जो अंतर है उसे समझते हुए ही काम हो रहा है। आज से 5 साल पहले आज के ही दिन स्किल इंडिया मिशन इसी सोच के साथ शुरू किया गया था। इसका मकसद यही था कि यूथ को नॉलेज के साथ ही स्किल भी मिले, कौशल भी मिले। इसके लिए देश भर में सैकड़ों प्रधानमंत्री कौशल विकास केंद्र खोले गए, ITIs की संख्या बढ़ाई गई, उनमें लाखों नई सीट्स जोड़ी गई। इस दौरान 5 करोड़ से ज्यादा लोगों को स्किल डेवलपमेंट किया जा चुका है और ये अभियान निरंतर जारी है।
Referring to the portal launched recently for mapping the skilled employees and employers, the PM stated that this would help the skilled workers, including the migrant workers, to access jobs easily and the employers to contact skilled employees at the click of a mouse. The World Youth Skills Day is celebrated every year on the 15th of July. However, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, it was celebrated in virtual mode this year. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Prime Minister Modi on Wednesday reviewed development works on at the Kedarnath temple. The discussion centered around furthering the divinity of the Kedarnath temple and the site where Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya breathed his last, besides extending all facilities to pilgrims on the Gauri Kund Kedarnath route. Showcasing the historical and cultural significance of the pilgrimage through technology was also discussed. Meanwhile, political drama continues in Rajasthan. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot kept up his attack on his ousted deputy Sachin Pilot, even as the Congress party appeared to extend an olive branch to the rebels. But the fault line between the old guard and young Turks have only widened. Here's a report.
कोई अच्छा इंग्लिश हिंदी बोलना, अच्छी बाइट देना, वो सब कुछ नहीं होता है। अच्छे हैंडसम पर्सनालिटी होना सब कुछ नहीं होता है। आपके दिल में क्या है देश के लिए, आपका कमिटमेंट क्या है, आपकी विचारधारा, नीति, कार्यक्रम जो है आपकी पार्टी के, कितना बड़ा कमिटमेंट है आपका, ये सब देखा जाता है आपको।
A clear message from the older guard in the Congress party to young guard and rebel leader Sachin Pilot. Round 1 of the Gehlot versus Pilot battle seems to be tilting in favor of the former. Countering Gehlot's charges, Gajendra Singh Shekhawat tweeted, "They spend all their time blaming neighbors for their own disputes and they curse their own family members while dealing with the neighbor. Speaking good English holds no value, but commitment to the family does. Every statement made by Gehlotji proves the ownership rights of the Gandhi family over the party." Earlier, the day began with Sachin Pilot speaking to various news channels to say that he isn't joining the BJP. In an apparent reference to Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot's camp, Sachin Pilot said some leaders in Rajasthan were trying to fuel speculation that he is joining the BJP and alleged that such speculation was being fueled to tarnish his image. Congress spokesperson Randeep Singh Surjewala's response to him: "Speak to the party and not the media."
परिवार के सदस्य को कभी वापस परिवार में आने से गुरेज नहीं करना चाहिए। मीडिया के माध्यम से वार्तालाप बंद कीजिए। अपने परिवार में वापस आइए, परिवार में बैठिए और परिवार में अपनी बात रखिए। यही पार्टी के प्रति, भारतीय राष्ट्रीय कांग्रेस के प्रति सच्ची निष्ठा, आपके विश्वास और आपकी प्रतिबद्धता का सबसे बड़ा सबूत होगा।
Pilot's statement was followed by the state Congress unit taking the first step forwards, restructuring the party in Rajasthan after Sachin Pilot was stripped of the state unit's presidentship. AICC General Secretary in charge for the Rajasthan Congress, Avinash Pandey, served a notice to Sachin Pilot and other 18 party members for not attending Congress legislative party meetings. If they don't respond within 2 days, then it will be considered that they are withdrawing their membership from CLP. In another move, Avinash Pandey tweeted, "AICC has decided to dissolve all the district Congress committees and block Congress committees of Rajasthan Pradesh with immediate effect. The process of formation of new committees will begin soon." The move is considered a step forward in removing all Pilot's men holding party positions at the grassroots levels. Sachin Pilot was seen leaving the resort in Manesar, where he and his loyalists were putting up. The Gehlot government claims not only does it have the numbers, but also the support of the people of Rajasthan. Meanwhile, the BJP met in Jaipur to discuss the developments and the way forward. Significantly, Vasundhara Raje did not attend the meeting, even though she was asked to. Before the meeting, leader of opposition Gulab Chand Kataria said the need for a floor test would be discussed.
देखो मैं हम तो दोनों को ही देख रहे हैं। हमारे सामने तो अशोक जी भी वैसे ही हैं जैसे पायलट साहब हैं। दोनों को एक्शन को देख करके हमारी पार्टी उसके आधार पर आगे की क्या नीति बनाए, इसके लिए हम सामूहिक विचार करने के लिए हमेशा।
On another front, suspended Congress leader Sanjay Jha says his loyalty is to the party ideology, not individual or family. He added that his big blunder was fighting for internal democracy and suggesting changes to revive the Congress. Jha was suspended for his anti-party activities after he spoke in favor of pilot on a debate on a TV channel. With Jaipur Bureau, News Night Desk, DD India.
The Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, has developed a low-cost COVID-19 test kit. HRD Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank and Minister of State Sanjay Dhotre on Wednesday launched what is billed as the world's most affordable diagnostic kit. Tapal Bhattacharya has more.
At a time when the world is grappling with the paucity and high expensive testing kits in its fight against COVID-19, India has shown as a beacon of light. Indian scientists have shown that when it comes to innovation, they don't lag behind anyone. Led by Professor Vivekanandan Perumal of IIT Delhi Kusuma School of Biological Sciences, researchers have prepared a COVID-19 testing kit. The kit received green signal from the Indian Council of Medical Research after necessary checks and investigation. Now, this kit can be used to perform tests across the country. On Wednesday, Union Minister for Human Resource Development Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank and Minister of State for HRD Sanjay Dhotre launched the kit through video conferencing.
और मुझे इस बात की खुशी है कि हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी के उस वजन को, उन शब्दों को मेरे आईआईटी, तमाम आईआईटीज ने बहुत कम समय में जुनून के साथ इस महामारी से लड़ने के लिए एक कदम, ठोस कदम जो मेरे आईआईटी ने उठाया है। मैं इस पूरी टीम को पूरे देश की ओर से मैं इसको धन्यवाद देना चाहता हूं।
हमारे देश में टेक्नोलॉजी के क्षेत्र में, रिसर्च में आईआईटी सिस्टम की एक ऐतिहासिक भूमिका रही है। आईआईटी सिस्टम ने शुरू से ही मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी रिसर्च और इनोवेशन को काफी प्रोत्साहित किया है। साथ ही साथ आईआईटी ने एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप को भी काफी बढ़ावा दिया है।
Using comparative sequence analysis, the IIT Delhi team identified unique regions in the COVID-19 genome. These regions are not present in other human coronaviruses, providing an opportunity to specially detect COVID-19. This highly sensitive assay was developed by extensive optimization using synthetic DNA constructs followed by in vitro generated RNA fragments.
It can be indigenously manufactured and it can be scaled up very fast. And that is where the cost has come down significantly now. And the basic kit after RNA extraction, you can do the test now in 399 rupees. And the RNA extraction and sample collection, if you add another 250 rupees, now in 600, 700 rupees using the IIT Delhi kit, you can do the complete RT-PCR test now.
IIT Delhi, which became the first academic institute to develop a COVID-19 testing method, gave non-exclusive open license to commercializing the test, but with a price rider. The company New Tech Medical Devices, which has launched the kit named Corosure, has pegged the price at $399 for the kit. IIT Delhi's latest innovation on COVID-19 testing kit is a classical example of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, ushering India into a new era.
This is a classic example of Atmanirbhar Bharat that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given call to. With cameraman Surinder, this is Taposh Bhattacharya, DD India, Delhi.
Right, moving on, Bihar is under a complete lockdown till 31st July in a bid to curb the spike in COVID-19 cases. Government buses are not allowed to ply. However, private vehicles are not barred. Yet, streets wore a deserted look as people stayed indoors. Bihar has reported about 20,000 COVID-19 cases and more than 170 deaths. Banks, ATMs and media outlets continue to function. Roadside eateries are only allowed to serve takeaways. Meanwhile, 24 BJP leaders and workers in Patna have been infected with the coronavirus. In Karnataka, a week-long shutdown has been imposed in Bengaluru urban and rural districts. The lockdown will be enforced till 22nd July. All forms of public transport, including buses, metro and taxis, are banned. Only emergency services are exempt. E-commerce companies are allowed to operate between 5 in the morning and 8 in the evening. Similarly, food delivery is also allowed between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m. Interstate and intrastate road travel is not allowed, but domestic flights and trains will operate. Right, time now for all the news related to COVID-19 pandemic in our COVID Wrap segment.
In a path-breaking move in India's battle against COVID-19, Drug Controller General of India has given market approval for pneumococcal polysaccharide conjugate vaccine. This vaccine is used for active immunization against invasive disease and pneumonia caused by Streptococcus pneumonia in infants. The vaccine is administered in an intramuscular manner. The Tamil Nadu government has approved the trial of BCG vaccine in elderly persons to study its impact on reducing the severity of COVID-19. The study will be coordinated by the National Institute for Research in Tuberculosis based in Chennai. The last 24 hours have seen a sharp rise in the number of COVID-19 patients recovering. 20,572 people were cured, which has taken the total number of recovered cases among COVID-19 patients. The recovery rate has climbed up to 63.24% today. With 865 labs in the government sector and 358 private labs, the total number of testing labs in the country is 1,223 as on date. During the last 24 hours, 3,20,161 samples have been tested. The issue of GST rate on alcohol-based hand sanitizers has been reported in few sections of media. It is stated that hand sanitizer attract GST at the rate of 18%. Sanitizers are disinfectants like soaps, antibacterial liquids, Detolect, which are all attract duty standard rate of 18% under the GST regime. WHO, in its guidance note on public health criteria to adjust public health and social measures in the context of COVID-19, has advised comprehensive surveillance for suspected cases. WHO has advised that the country needs 140 tests per day per million population.
All right, moving on. In the Kerala gold smuggling case, IAS officer M. Shivashankar, who was summoned for questioning by customs on Tuesday evening, was sent back home after 9 hours of questioning. Further action may be taken once more evidence is gathered. Shivashankar was recently removed as Principal Secretary to Chief Minister due to his connection in the gold smuggling case. Customs had earlier found that the accused frequently gathered at Shivashankar's apartment in the state capital. Phone records between Swapna Suresh and Minister for Higher Education KT Jalil in the month of May and June have also surfaced. The minister called for a press conference to clarify that Swapna called him as directed by the Consul General of the UAE in Thiruvananthapuram. Swapna Suresh and Sandeep Nair, the two key accused, have been remanded in NIA custody. About 10% of Assam's population is affected by the floods. Flood waters have inundated the Kaziranga National Park as well. 90% of the park is completely submerged, forcing animals to venture out and move towards the Karbi Anglong district and other nearby places in search of high land. National Highway 37 is badly affected too. A stretch of the highway passes through the national park. It disrupted vehicular movement between upper and lower Assam. The Bihar flood situation remains grim as well. Almost all the major rivers in the state are in spate. The situation in the lower areas of the Gandak River is particularly grim due to the release of more than 300,000 cusecs of water from the Valmiki Gandak barrage in West Champaran. Rail and road communication are disrupted due to rains. Both remain the only mode of transport in some areas.
There is still a relief that all the embankments are safe, barring some seepage incident, sporadic incidents, but the people are facing hardship as the low-lying population has been shifted from the low-lying area to higher places, and even some of the people are living under the sky, spending nights under the sky. Salman Haider, DD News.
And Mumbai and adjoining areas witnessed heavy rainfall for the last 2 days. An orange alert has been issued for some parts of Maharashtra. Low-lying areas including Parel, Hindi Mata, Sain, King Circle and Andheri were waterlogged. Other parts of the state such as Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri, Nashik, Raigad and Palghar are experiencing heavy rainfall too.
Thane and Navi Mumbai have been experiencing continuous and heavy rainfall since 2 days. This has caused a lot of issues for the people and for the Mumbaikars. We are also seeing issues of waterlogging in several low-lying areas including Sayan, Parel, Hindmata, Andheri and other areas which are considered to be low-lying in Mumbai. Other than Mumbai, we are also seeing areas in Maharashtra including Sindhudurg, Ratnagiri, Raigad, Akola, Jalgaon. These areas have also been experiencing continuous heavy rainfall and which has also caused a lot of trouble for the people living over there. The BMC has issued a warning or an advisory for the people that they should not be venturing close to the sea or to the areas where the waterlogging issues are currently being observed, because there would be a high tide of around 3.28 meters in the evening at around 7 p.m. Shama Mishra, DD India, Mumbai.
All right, now take a look at what else is making news around India in our national wrap.
The results of Class 10th CBSE board examinations were announced today. Overall pass percentage is 91.46%. Girls have done better than boys by 3.17%. Performance of Trivandrum region students is the best with 99.28 pass percentage. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will visit Ladakh and Jammu and Kashmir on July 17th-18th. He will be accompanied by Army Chief General Manoj Mukund Narvane and will be visiting forward locations there. Reliance Industries Chairman Mukesh Ambani said that Reliance Jio has designed and developed its own complete 5G solution, which will be ready for trial and for field deployment by next year. Ambani said that trials using Jio's own 5G solution will be launched as soon as the 5G spectrum is available in India. Considering the rising demand for handcrafted products, Tripura Rehabilitation Plantation Corporation has started production of water bottles using bamboo in Bamutia. TRPC officials claim that the process of manufacturing is completely organic.
The Trump administration Wednesday said that it will impose travel bans on employees of the Chinese technology giant Huawei and other Chinese companies the U.S. determines are assisting authoritarian governments in cracking down on human rights, including in China's western Xinjiang province. The U.S. Foreign Minister Mike Pompeo made the announcement a day after the British government said it would ban Huawei from its 5G networks over concerns that sensitive data could be compromised by the Chinese government and the Chinese Communist Party. Pompeo said Huawei employees found to be providing material support to regimes engaging in human rights violations and abuses globally would be hit with sanctions.
The United States has a Huawei announcement of our own today. The State Department will impose visa restrictions on certain employees of Chinese technology companies like Huawei that provide material support to regimes engaging in human rights violations and abuses globally.
And that's a wrap on Newsnight. But news continues here on DD News and DD India. You can catch all the latest updates on our social media, mobile and digital platforms. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Here she comes. नमस्कार, न्यूज नाइट में आप सभी का स्वागत है। मैं हूं आपके साथ आरेंद्र। भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच आज 15वां सम्मेलन हुआ, जिसे प्रधानमंत्री मोदी ने संबोधित किया। वर्चुअल तरीके से हुए सम्मेलन के दोनों पक्षों में आपसी व्यापार और सहयोग बढ़ाने पर बात तो बनी ही है, साथ ही